Welcome to Learn Xamarin Mobile Programming Step by Step, Lesson by Lesson. So in this complete step-by-step video series, we will try to understand how we can create mobile applications using Xamarin platform. So let us first try to put a simple definition around what is Xamarin. Xamarin is a mobile development platform which uses C# language to create mobile applications which can run on Android, which can run on iOS, which can run on Windows Phone, and so on. So the first thing what we need for Xamarin is we need Visual Studio. So go ahead and download the free Visual Studio Community Edition. At this moment I have 2015, but there has been a new release 2017. You can use that as well. The steps of this course as such will not change. So the first step is you need to go and install the Visual Studio Community Edition in your computer. Now, when you install Visual Studio, by default, Xamarin does not get installed. So you need to go and click on the features, and you need to ensure that you check this small checkbox here, C#.NET Xamarin third party. And also you need to go and check the other checkboxes for Android, which is inside the common tools and software development kits. So basically, if you're installing Visual Studio, it does not mean that Xamarin gets installed by default, because Xamarin is a very big product. It takes a lot of space, right? So that's why it is not installed by default. So you need to go and install these features manually. When you install Visual Studio, you need to check those features. In case you are using 2017, right? So in case you are using 2017, then ensure that you install, you check this component here, the workload component, mobile development with .NET preview. So basically ensure that you check this small checkbox over here. So just that, the way to select the features are different in 2017 and 2015, but whatever it is, you either use 2015 or you either use 2017, you need to go and install Xamarin, or I'll say check the Xamarin option manually. And if you want to just check, that was the installation of Xamarin successful, what you can do is you can go and click on this new project from here, or you can go and click on new project from here. And when you do a new project, then inside Visual C#, inside this menu Visual C#, you should see Android menu, you should see iOS menu, and you should see cross-platform. So if you see these three menus inside the Visual C# menu, that means that you are ready for Xamarin programming. So these three things here, is a sign that your Xamarin has been installed successfully. Now Xamarin provides two different approaches for mobile development. And these approaches you have to select right away before you start the project. And it is very difficult to reverse these approaches in the later stage of the project. So the first approach which is provided by Xamarin is termed as Xamarin Native, and the second approach is Xamarin Forms. So now, when to choose what? Which approach is better over other? If you see around, there are different mobile devices like Android, iOS, Windows. Each one of these mobile devices behave differently. They have their own custom way of doing things. They have their own genes. They have their own custom behavior. For example, alert box in iOS versus Android looks something like this. If you look at action messages, right? Actions in iOS versus Android, they look different, right? So each one of these devices have their own inherent behavior. Now, if you say that you want to have this behavior as it is, you want to get those typical native behavior of a particular mobile OS, then you need to select Xamarin Native. As the name says native, it will actually exploit the capabilities of the native operating system. But if your app is just a plain vanilla app, just simple screens, simple text boxes, buttons and grids, and you are not so keen in exploiting custom features of a particular OS, then you can go ahead with Xamarin Forms. So If you want to exploit the native nature of that particular OS, then with Xamarin Native. If you want to not exploit very much in-depth details of a particular OS, but you just want to create a plain vanilla app, you have simple screens, simple requirement, then I think you can go ahead with Xamarin Forms. So this decision you have to take very properly before you start your development. In case you mess around with this decision, then you can have issues. Also, one very important point which I want to highlight here is, if you're going to use Xamarin Native, you will end up with multiple code bases. So in Xamarin Native, you will have a separate code base for Android, you will have a separate code base for iPhone, and so on. But when you talk about Xamarin Forms, you will just have one code base, and when you do a build, there will be different builds created for Android, there will be different build created for iOS, and so on. So one of the drawbacks of native is that you will end up with multiple code bases, but then you have the full ability to go and exploit the custom features of the particular OS. So if you want to create Xamarin native applications, you can go and click on this Android menu. So this will actually help you to create Android based application using Xamarin. And if you want to go and create iOS based applications, you can create using this iOS based applications. So you can see that there is an iOS menu. And if you want to create cross-platform, right, then you can go and click on this cross-platform and you can use Xamarin Forms. So for native, you need to click on the appropriate native menus, right? And for cross-platform, or I'll say Xamarin Forms, you will click on this cross-platform menu. For now, let us start with small things. Let us start first with native and let us start with Android. I think Android is the biggest market. So let us first start with Xamarin native programming using Android. So let us click on this menu over here. Let us click on blank application of Android and let us say that this is first Xamarin Android application. And let's say okay. So once the application is created, you can see that it has created a solution. The solution has a project, there are some folders. Inside the folder, there are some files and so on. So I will be explaining you the Xamarin Android project structure later on in detail. So that is for the next lab, for the next lesson. But for now, let us try to go and run this inside a mobile. Now, definitely when you say that you want to go and run this inside a mobile, the first thing is you need to have a mobile, you need to go and deploy on it, and it is quite complex, right? And that's where, people use something called as emulators. Emulators are nothing but they are software application which actually simulate a mobile environment. So if you see out here, you can see that we have some emulators like Android KitKat, then Android KitKat for tablet. So there is a phone, there is a tablet, right? So basically, these are emulators. So if I go and run this, if I go and click on this green button out here, what will happen is it will take this code and it will deploy it inside an emulator. Now, this process will take a bit time, but be patient to see what happens. So I'm going to go and just run this application inside, one of these emulators. Now, in case you are getting confused by the names out here, let me just explain you what it means. This says that this is an Android operating system and the version is KitKat. So if you look at Android operating system, it has a lot of versions, a lot of code names like Android KitKat, Android Lollipop, and so on. So normally the names are always given with some food names. So this is saying that, okay, you want to run this Android KitKat. You want to run this code inside Android KitKat. You can see the second one here. It says, okay, Android Tablet KitKat. Okay. So basically that Android is the operating system and that KitKat is one of the versions of it, right? So let me go and run this. So you can see as soon as I click on that run out there, it is first preparing a virtual machine. So this emulator, works inside a virtual machine. So virtual machine is launched and this emulator is loaded inside it. So you can see here, it has prepared the virtual machine. It is launching the emulator and you can see that this emulator is getting loaded here. Now, in case you have problem while loading this emulator, please mail us at questpond@questpond.com so that we can help you to understand if there are any issues, right? So in case you are getting some errors while you're doing this, which is possible, because there are some issues which happens if the installation is not proper, do email us at questpoint@questpoint.com and we will try to help you out. So you can see there it is. My emulator has been launched, and it is, so you can see it is loading here. It is showing Android, and you can see it, it is showing you a nice mobile, with a nice simulated mobile, which is having a lock here. It is showing it is charging. So almost like how an Android operating system looks inside a mobile, it has simulated here. So I'm going to go and just swipe this to the right. You can see I took the mouse and I swiped to the right. So it says swipe to the right like this, and that opens up my mobile. And let me go and click on these apps out here, and somewhere you can see that my app has been installed inside it by the name My First Xamarin Android App. This name is the same thing what I've given here in the project. So in the project, I've given the name First Xamarin Android App, and this icon out here right away says that this is the app. Now you can see that at this moment, when I click on this app, nothing happens. Just this black window opens, but nothing really happens. Why? Because we have not coded anything still, right? But still now, we are able to create a simple app. We are able to deploy it inside an emulator, and we are able to run it. So that brings us to the end of lesson 1 of Learn Xamarin in 8 hours step by step. So in this lesson 1, we first looked into what is Xamarin. For installing Xamarin inside Visual Studio, or to start Xamarin development, what prerequisite we need to install. We also looked into different approaches of Xamarin, that is Xamarin Native and Xamarin Forms, and when should we use what. And also we created a simple Xamarin Android application, and we deployed inside the emulator, and we saw the output. Now in the next lesson, what I will be doing is I'm going to go and explain you the complete project structure of a Xamarin Android app. So if you remember, we had this simple project out here. So in the next video, my goal is to explain you each and every folder out here. Explain you what is this activity, what are this AXML files, what is this assets, and so on. And we'll also create a simple application and just say hello world. So we'll put some buttons, we'll put some text boxes. We'll understand each one of these folders, and let us create a Xamarin Android workable application and see that how it goes ahead, right? So I hope that you enjoyed this video. In this video, we were trying to make our first Xamarin application running. Thank you.